There is a kind of person everyone admires and no one truly knows. They are the strong one, the composed one, the one who never falls apart, never asks for help, never seems to need anything from anyone. People lean on them and never wonder who they lean on. And Carl Jung, who spent his life looking beneath the surfaces people present, understood something about this person that they themselves refuse to see. Their strength is not strength. It is a wound wearing armor. Jung watched them arrive in his consulting room, though it took a crisis to get them there, because a person who needs no one does not seek help willingly. They came only when something had finally cracked. And what he found underneath the composure, again and again, was not a calm and self-sufficient soul. It was a profound, aching loneliness that had been sealed so tightly and for so long that the person had lost the ability to feel it directly. They had made themselves invulnerable, and in doing so, they had made themselves unreachable, even to themselves. Before this goes further, understand what this is really about. This is not a celebration of vulnerability over strength, and it is not an attack on people who are competent and self-reliant. Jung had no interest in turning strong people into weak ones. What he identified was something far more precise and far more haunting. That there is a way of being strong that is actually a way of hiding, and the person doing it has confused the two so completely that they will defend their prison as if it were their crown. Over the next several minutes, we're going to trace the 4 things Jung understood about the armored self. Why the strength everyone admires is so often the loneliest place a human being can live, and the single realization that lets a strong person finally be known without becoming weak. Stay until the end, because the last one is the door out, and almost no one is shown where it is. Let's begin with how the armor gets built, because no one chooses it as an adult. Jung understood that no child is born needing no one. It is the opposite. A child is pure need, pure dependence, pure reaching. And the armored adult was once a child whose reaching was met with something that taught them a terrible lesson. That needing was dangerous. Maybe their need was too much for a parent who was already drowning. Maybe it was met with irritation, or absence, or shame. Maybe they learned that the only way to keep the love they had was to stop requiring anything from it. And so, very early, before they could even name what they were doing, they made a decision that would shape their entire life. They decided that the safest thing to be was someone who does not need. And it worked. That is the tragedy of it. The armor worked. The child who stopped needing stopped getting hurt in that particular way. They became competent early. They became the reliable one, the mature one, the one who handled things. Adults praised them for it. The world rewarded it. And every reward drove the armor deeper, until the strategy that began as a wound became an identity. They no longer felt they were hiding their need. They felt they simply were this, self-sufficient, strong, above the messy dependence that ruled everyone else. Jung saw the lie inside this, because the need did not disappear when the child sealed it away. Need is not something a human being can delete. It can only be buried. And buried need does not rest. It sits underneath the armor, unfelt but not gone, quietly shaping the entire life from below. The person who needs no one still needs, exactly as much as everyone else. They have simply lost access to it. And a need you cannot feel is a need you can never get met. If this is landing somewhere uncomfortable, if you are the strong one, the one who holds everyone and is held by no one, comment the word armor below. Jung believed the first crack in the armor is simply admitting it is armor and not skin. Because the second thing Jung understood is the cruelest cost of all. The armored person does not just hide their need from others. They hide from connection itself, and they do not know it. Because real intimacy, the kind that actually feeds a human being, requires the one thing the armor exists to prevent. It requires being seen in your need. It requires letting someone matter enough that their absence would hurt. It requires handing another person the power to affect you, which means handing them the power to wound you. And the armored person cannot do this. Their entire structure is built to never be in that position again. And so they can have relationships, many of them, and remain starving inside everyone. Jung watched this play out with a specific and heartbreaking pattern. The strong person becomes the giver. They are generous, capable, endlessly there for others, because giving keeps them in the safe position. The one who provides is never the one who needs. But this generosity, however real, is also a wall. As long as they are the strong one holding everyone else, they never have to be held. They control the exchange. They stay one step removed. And people feeling that removal without understanding it keep them at a certain distance too. They are respected, relied upon, admired, but not gotten close to. Because you cannot get close to someone who will not let you carry anything of theirs. And this is the loneliness Jung found underneath the strength. Not the loneliness of having no one around. The armored person often has many people around. It is the far deeper loneliness of being surrounded by people and known by none of them. Of being loved for your strength while the frightened, needing self beneath it has never once been seen, held, or met. They are alone in the most complete way a person can be. Alone inside their own life behind glass, watching connection happen to everyone but them, and telling themselves they prefer it this way. But Jung did not leave it there, because he was never only interested in the wound. And here the path turns. Jung drew a distinction that changes everything for this person. There is a difference, he said, between strength as armor and strength as ground. Strength as armor is rigid. It cannot bend because bending feels like breaking. It cannot show a crack because the whole point is to have no cracks. It is strong the way a wall is strong, and a wall, however impressive, keeps everything out, including the very things that would nourish it. But there is another kind of strength entirely. Strength as ground. This is the strength of someone who can be soft precisely because they are stable, who can show need without collapsing, ask for help without shame, be seen in their weakness without it costing them their center. This person is strong the way a deep-rooted tree is strong. It bends in the storm, it moves, and it does not fall, because its strength is not in its rigidity but in its roots. And Jung observed the paradox that the armored person can never believe until they live it. The tree is stronger than the wall. The person who can show their need is stronger than the person who cannot, not weaker. Because it takes far more courage to let yourself be seen than to hide. It takes far more strength to hand someone the power to hurt you and trust them with it than to seal yourself away where no one can reach. The armored person believes their invulnerability is their strength. Jung saw it as their fear, frozen into a shape they mistook for power. Real strength was never the absence of need. It was the capacity to have need and not be destroyed by it. Which brings us to the third thing, and it is the one the strong person least wants to hear. Jung noticed that the armored self is terrified of a very specific thing, not weakness in general, their own weakness felt directly. Because the armor was built in a moment when their need met rejection, and buried inside it is the original wound, still raw, still convinced that to need is to be abandoned. And so every time life pushes them toward vulnerability, toward asking, toward depending, toward being seen, an ancient alarm goes off. It tells them they are in danger. It tells them that if they let the armor down for even a moment, they will be hurt exactly as they were hurt at the beginning. And they believe it, they obey it. They reach for the armor and call the reaching strength. Jung's path here is not to tear the armor off, which would only re-traumatize the frightened child underneath. It is to turn toward that child, to finally feel, as an adult, the buried need that was sealed away so long ago, to grieve the reaching that was not met, to offer the abandoned self the thing it never got, not from someone else first, but from oneself. Jung understood that the armored person has to become, for their own inner child, the one who finally says your need was never too much, and you were never wrong to reach. And something remarkable happens when they do. The armor, which was built to protect that child, begins to soften on its own because the thing it was guarding is finally being held. You do not have to force a wall down when the reason for the wall has been met. And that leads to the fourth and final realization, the door out. Jung observed that the strong person who does this inner work does not become weak. This is the fear that keeps them frozen, and it is wrong. They do not lose their competence, their reliability, their capability. All of that remains. What changes is that it stops being a prison and becomes a choice. They can still be strong, but now they can also, when they choose, set the strength down. They can let someone in. They can say, "I need you," and mean it, and survive it. They can be held. And they discover, often with tears they did not expect, that the connection they had sealed themselves away from all their lives was the very thing they had been starving for. Underneath all that self-sufficiency, they were never above the need for others. They were exiled from it. And coming home to it does not diminish them. It completes them. Because the truth Jung wanted this person to understand is that a human being is not meant to need no one. That was never strength. It was a child's desperate solution to a pain too big to hold, carried into an adulthood where it was no longer needed and never questioned. And the bravest thing such a person can ever do is not to hold more, carry more, need less. It is to finally let themselves be human, to let someone matter, to be seen in the place they have hidden their whole life. Not because they have become weak, but because they have finally become strong enough to stop pretending they don't need anyone at all. And now I need to speak to you directly. If you are the strong one, if you are the one who holds everyone and is held by no one, if you have made yourself into someone who needs nothing, asks for nothing, leans on no one, and you have quietly called this your strength, while a loneliness you rarely let yourself feel sits underneath it all, then hear what Jung would have told you. Your strength is real, but some of it is not strength. Some of it is a wall you built when you were too young to know you were building it, in a moment when your need met something that taught you to hide it, and you have carried that wall so long that you mistook it for who you are. You are not invulnerable. No one is. You are a person with the same need for others that everyone carries, and yours was simply buried so deep and so early that you lost the way back to it. But the way back is still there. It begins the moment you stop asking how much more you can hold and start asking who is holding you. Let one person in. Let yourself be seen in the place you have hidden. Not because you are weak, but because you were never meant to do this alone. And the strongest thing you will ever do is finally admit it. If this reached the part of you that you keep hidden, don't let it seal back over the moment the screen goes dark. In the next video, I want to take you into what Jung discovered about the people who spend their lives searching for meaning and never find it. Why the ones who look hardest for their purpose are so often the ones furthest from it. And the quiet shift that finally lets it appear. Because the armored heart and the lost soul are looking for the same thing in the wrong direction. And Jung understood exactly where to turn. I'll see you there.